Alright, welcome to Blessed Harvest. This is a really unique little project, and I love the surface that we've decided to paint on. The surface is really just a rectangle. However, what the surface really is it is a book easel, and it's a cookbook easel actually. And so then you can put your art on there, and so now you have a really cute little display case. These little bonger things are to keep your pages open. Okay, I probably would take mine off because what I want to share is I use my iPad to cook with in my kitchen all the time, but I want to put it in something that has a front stopper on it, and I want it up so that I can see it. I don't want it laying flat, and that's been a problem for me. So when I saw this cookbook stand with its front little place here, I thought, well, why couldn't we just paint seasonal boards to decorate it up? And if you look here, it just frames it perfectly. So we have, we can see the top stuff, we can see the bottom stuff, and it just gives it that dimension. I can flip my board over, and I can paint on the back. So, like I have my all-season kind of thing. But what's really neat is you could also, it's the hardest thing to show things that stand up in this. If you reduce the pattern like 20%, then you could put it easily in your anyway tray. Okay, so now you have an anyway tray insert that what you can do the same thing with. You can paint on both sides, and it's reversible, and now you have a little anyway tray. You could make it into a floor cloth by blowing it up 200%, or you could make it into the large anyway tray surface. Another of the things that we really do like is you could hang it on your wall. This is a wall art stand, and the way this works is you put your art inside. It's got these little feet, okay, and this is really hard to show, but you can hang this on your wall in like one of those skinny long walls that you have that you can't hang most art. And what you can do is you can leave this piece up and then just simply swap out different artboards. What's one of the problems as painters have is so many things are made for the wall that we run out of wall space. So this way you can just take flat pieces, swap them out, and then you can keep your beautiful decorative iron scroll stand up all year, and then just swap out your seasonal art. I think it's a very versatile idea. We have a lot of fun techniques. We've got a stencil background and some dry rubbing and things like that. It's not a difficult project, but it will bring you, if you're a beginner, it will bring you up and give you some advanced kind of skills. And if you're a better painter or a more experienced painter, then you'll probably learn a few things here, and a couple of tips and some tricks to make some painting styles easier. Okay, I've had my roller with my sealer in it in a baggie for a couple of weeks. I've got a little bit of hardening. But what's neat about it is it shows you that you can keep your sealer in a baggie for a little while. Okay, I've got my multi-purpose sealer, and I'm going to go ahead and roll on both sides and get it sealed. A roller is one of the fastest ways to seal a project. And it keeps your hands out of it, which I kind of like. Okay, when you are ready to flip your piece over and paint the other side, you can use these painter's pyramids. They're actually made out of a nylon material, and so the paint doesn't stick on them, and they don't scratch or mar. Okay, so you can just prop that up there while it's wet, and then just do your other side. Alright, I'm going to sand. I've got a little bit of roughness, not very much. It's just a little sanding disc. It's got one grit on one side, and the other side has a heavier grit. Really, really handy little tool to keep. Okay, wipe off your dust. I'm going to use the same exact roller that I used to put my sealer on. That way I only have to clean it one time. And I'll roll on probably 2 or 3 coats of this, just nice and thin coats. If you want less texture from a roller, and this isn't super textury, it dries flatter than it rolls on. If you want less texture, what you do is you roll, and then you roll some more, and you kind of just let it keep rolling until you get it really fine. You can actually get it super duper smooth if you just kind of keep rolling. the more paint you have on your roller, the more bumpy it'll be. But the less pressure you use and the more you roll, then the finer your texture. Okay, I'm going to use this awesome little brocade-like stencil on my project. And what I've got on the back of it is tack it over and over. This makes your stencil like a giant sticky note. The problem is it doesn't remove. So what I have is I've got vellum sheets stuck to the back so that when this dries clear, then it's like a sticky note. It doesn't have any residue. But I want to be able not to have a whole pile of stencils that all get stuck together. The neat thing about this vellum is not only does it protect the back of your stencils, it makes them sticky or it makes them not stick together, and I just hang them in little clips. But the vellum also is the perfect way to go through your copy machine, so you can actually do your patterns on the copier. So you get your disc with your pattern, you just print it out on this, and then there's no tracing step. So that's a really awesome two-step kind of material. And we actually have them in 12 packs and in 50 packs. So if you're going to use them for a lot of stencils, you might want to get that bigger pack. We're going to mix a little bit of our asphaltum into the sable brown, because I want something that's going to go, but I don't want something that's going to be too contrasty. And maybe a little bit more, so maybe about 50-50. 50-50, squish, squish. Go. Okay, wipe off the palette knife. We're going to apply the paint with our jumbo dauber. I'm just really going to push this off over here. Okay, and then I just want to tap, and actually what I want to do is kind of tap, and then I'll peek. And I think that'll probably do. I don't want this to be too heavy, so I'll probably do a little bit more extra tapping and not so much paint applying. So I'll blot it off, and then we'll look. Let's peek at that. Oh yeah, that's much softer. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and apply this. One coat, and we should be good to go. Okay, this is my reveal. I think that that's going to be just the right amount of something going on in the background, and we'll take a look and see. You can just plunk your jumbo dauber into your water bucket, and I've got a cool water bucket back here. It has got 3 basins, and this back one is big enough for me to actually put my hand in. What I normally do is I just sink my little daubers in there, and they don't, even though they float and stuff, they don't seem to stay crusty and stuff like that. Usually I'll have a whole collection back there. But I use this one right here for cleaning, for loading my brush, and this one is for cleaning. This is for all the extra stuff, and then this one you can put, you know, extender or mediums and stuff like that. Very handy little guy. Alright, I'm going to let this dry and trace my pattern. As I'm getting my leaves and everything base coated, one thing, I've got a couple of pointers for you. I tried basing with a brand new little flat sharp brush. Okay, so it's just a really good little flat that is brand new, no fluffies and stuff. When you're basing into these little points right here, it's really difficult to do. Okay, but if you use a round instead, then you end up with a tip, plus you end up with a flat. So I flatten my brush in my green color, and then what I can do is I go up here and I can sneak it along, and I'll get nice crispy, I'll slide in on the edge and I'll get nice crispy tips. And what I'm doing right now is I started out with a lighter base coat on my leaves, but then as I realize, I'm always trying to think of like the end user. If we do this in the light, then I'm going to have to float up next to all those edges. I'm still going to have to float doing it the way I'm going to do it, but this way, by going into the medium color, I'm going to rub on the lights and just do a little bit of the floating with the dark, and it'll be an easier way to paint the leaf. Alright, I've got my half pipe compass set for my border. I'm just going to run that along, let my leaf hang out on top. And And then I'll do the same thing for the opposite side. Real easy way to, real easy way to transfer on a border. What makes the half pipe a little bit different is it has actually got a cap so that the point is, you are protected from the point, and it stores extra leads in the back side. So you're never without in case you break it off. And it's super handy. I've been in love with it for probably, I don't know, 7-8 years. To make sure that I don't get bleed under, if I'm using a paintbrush on my taped border, then what I would do is I'll flatten the paint in my brush, and then I will kind of tap right on the edge of my brush. You never want to scoop towards your tape because that will get you some bleed under. But my very favorite way to apply the paint is to use a jumbo dauber because I'm using a pouncing and I don't get any of those ridges that you can get with a brush. And I never ever ever get a bleed under with pouncing. So the jumbo dauber, and it covers a lot of area real fast. And yeah, so you can do it with the flat or you can do it with one of the daubers. Alright, I want to get a little bit of a faded edge going on here. Get you pulled out so you can see the whole thing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a blending medium. This is Tradition's blending medium. Pour this out over here. And I'm going to go ahead and use my giant oval glaze brush. And I'm going to apply an even coat. You could actually mix this in with your paint a little bit if you wanted to. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply it to all of the brown area that runs through next to my borders because I want to create a center of interest. But if you're not wet, if you don't put the medium everywhere, then what happens is it'll grab on the dry paint. So you want to go a little over into your border, and it doesn't leave any distinguishing lines and stuff. You can force this dry with a blow dryer. Okay, so go ahead and pull that in. And then what I'll do is I'll wipe my brush off and we'll go into I'll corner load and blend my brush. And you don't want to mix this with water, it doesn't like water. Okay, and I'm a little bit kind of soppy wet here. So I'll just go ahead, we don't want puddling, you just want a nice even sheen. Okay, and then I'll use my brush if I can figure out which side I've got loaded. I've got a nice glare going on. And I'll come up here and I'll just place it down there. It doesn't matter, it's the same color as my band, so it's not going to matter if I go into the band at all. And so we'll just go ahead and put that out there, and I'm placing it with a side-loaded brush, but that doesn't mean that what doesn't that mean? It doesn't mean that you have to be perfectly done, because what I'm going to do is go in with a fluffy mop, and I'll just kind of tap at it. And see how I didn't get it up next to my edge there, and I've got a little halo effect? I'm going to go back in there and get that tucked in there. Okay, and just make sure that's really nice and solid over there. And then we'll go with our mop while it's still wet. Now you would probably want to go ahead and maybe put your pumpkin, don't base coat first, because what I have to do in order for designing to happen is I have to lay out my colors and make sure that I like where things are. You wouldn't maybe necessarily skip forward to this background step and not do it before you do the other. Okay, so I've got that softened, and if I can get you in a good angle, see what that's doing is it's just rounding those corners and it's keeping your eye within the piece. And now I'll continue on to my other edges. Okay, and you always want to keep one or two. You want a short, dense mop, and you want a long, fluffy mop. The dense mop is going to move my paint when it won't move and it's being stubborn. I can kind of force my paint and really force soften my edges if I'm getting any stubbornness. You can kind of even scumble it along. If you get anything that just seems to be stuck or whatever, you can take some extender or the blending medium and you can go ahead and just wipe it back off. And actually what I can do, that's a good idea. I'm testing the color, let's see what color was it, Russet, to shade, and I don't like it, but my paint just dried. If you spit or use a little bit of water with like the micro eraser or our triple threat eraser, you can actually get it to erase freshly dried paint. That is a really good tip when you don't want to have to rebase coat and stuff. Okay, so that falls in the how to fix mistakes kind of tip. Okay, so I didn't like how dark that was, and I'm getting ready to, and one other thing that I wanted to address is a lot of times what I like to do is get all of my base and all my prep done, because then the painting, like I think like the decorating your surface and stuff actually feels very artistic if you can do it all at one time. Where if you base coat here, that's like one side of your brain, but then when you're floating and you're doing the artistic stuff, that's the other side of your brain. So you're switching back and forth and it can be a little painful. So I like to get everything ready to go and then put all of my artistic side stuff all on at the same time. All right, we're ready to start floating. And we're going to start with my pumpkin because it's the biggest, baddest thing on the page here. And I'm going to start with oxblood and hope that it shows. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and, yeah, that's better, not so dark. I'm just going to shade all the sections. And we're going to shade back to back, which means that we're going to actually shade with the two floats connecting. That's how we'll get this to look like it's dimensional. If you get any kind of thing blurble where you don't like it or whatever, just use your little small detail mop and straighten it out. Alright, we're going to shade on either side of our pumpkin. Okay, so we'll go around here, shade to get some roundness. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and continue on down to the side and come underneath this wheat stuff, which I'll just rebase the parts that get a little dirty. So we want to tuck the pumpkin behind, and so we have to have some shading. Okay, and this is important to keep in a smooth kind of way. So I want to go through and just kind of tap to not have, I don't want jaggedy shading lines. Okay, and then I'm wiping my brush off on a damp spot on here and then on a dry spot so that I clean off the tip of my brush. Okay, and then we'll finish the rest of these as they dry. And definitely make sure you get it dark behind. All right, we're going to shade our lettering. I've got a lot of the same stuff, so I'll show you on one lettering. You want to use a really big, this is a 5/8 angle shader. And try to stay off your dark color, but you can patch it if you need to. I'm not going to worry so much about that because I can just go around it and clean it up. And then you walk it up. What my hope is, and it looks like it's pretty much doing it, is that it sucks into that dark color. And you do want to go ahead and erase any excess graphite lines before you start painting. That's a do as I say, not as I do thing. So get it up to about halfway and do that on all the letters, and when we come up here onto the top, we'll do it on the top coming down. And the reason we're doing that is that we want the light and the light to bring your eye in. So you'll have your light bringing, it'll do more of that framing thing. We're going to take our round brush, and the round brushes you want are the Easy Stroke or the Pro Round. Both of those will hold their flat. And we're going to do drop shading with lamp black on the left sides of all the letters. Now I went back and I cleaned up my letters. Okay, but we want a fairly decent sized lamp black shadow. And you can do underneath too if you want. Yeah, that looks really good. It just gives it that little bit of depth and dimension. Okay, we're going to take Tangerine and a dry crescent brush, And we'll rub off like all the paint basically. And then we're going to just right in the brightest section of each section, we're going to rub and just keep on rubbing until you get the desired color, and then you go out to the outer edges of it. And this is going to give us our raised little sections. Doesn't matter if you go over some of the shading, that'll probably give it a little bit of extra pop. I like these brushes because they have a chisel edge and then they can have a fat edge, so you can get a big highlight or something with a little more control. Okay, then we'll take a little bit of our, let's try, and if that's sticky, it's wet, so you got to be real careful. You can lift and make holes. I'm going to try a little bit of our yellow ochre. And scrub off just a little bit more. And that's going to be on the highest points and more in the middle of that highlight. Okay, that's going to give us just that real good dimension. Now we're going to get some of this corn husk stuff shaded. So we're going to be a little creative. Where things disappear to the inside, we're going to use russet and shade. Where things cross over other things, for example right here, and we'll shade to make it look like it's on top. I'm using the curved flat brush, which is just brilliant for shading these roundish kind of things. This corn husk stuff will make you lose your brains a little bit, so be prepared for that. And I don't think there's really a right or a wrong. It probably is, but we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to make highs and lows. And we do know that the insides are where things are going to be. Don't forget your mop if you need it. This guy's continuing over to here. And he's kind of an inside-y leaf. Alright, so... And one of the best things to do is start with the ones you know about and do those, and then make the rest up. Don't get it too strong and too dark. And we just kind of want it kind of crinkly looking. Shade on the opposite side. You start losing control of your brush, you need to go ahead and wash and then reload. This guy's going to be shaded across the top, and a shade next to here, and then this guy is actually going to shade down low because he's got it kind of going on right there. Round out any corners that you get. You could put some kind of wrinkly fold things into some of these. this case, I got some eraser bits giving me grief here. So at the middle, I can just give myself some folds. And then we'll get him shaded over here next to the edge. Okay, that looks like about the right amount of shading. Looks like I need something right there. I do it to the inside. Same thing over here. Looks like it's cupped and bowed. Alright, we want our corn husks to be kind of dry brushed looking and scratchy, so I've got desert sand in my round brush, and I'm just going to streak on where they, let's see, where they would be highlighted. And feather that out. And I think I'm going to mix a little bit of my cocoa in with my desert sand. Desert sand seems like it's being just a little bit of a big stretch here. That's a little bit better. Give it some highs and some lows. Okay, next we're going to work on our leaves. I'm going to use Reindeer Moss, and I'm going to dry rub. And let's pick, that's going to be just a little bit too light. We'll use that as our top highlight. We'll go into celery green. See how that's chalky right there? How it looks like chalk on a chalkboard? That's how you can tell if your highlight's too light. If it's too light, you could mix, or you could just switch up to a different value color. Okay, so we'll do these high points. This leaf over here, far over here, will get less highlight just because it will gather too much attention. So you want to choose your battles as far as center of interest. So we can give it a little bit of a highlight, but we'll keep it mainly dark. And go back and highlight one more time if I feel like I haven't got it quite right yet. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to a round brush for the stem. And then what I want to do with this is I want to create a little bit of a texture in the stem. I'm just kind of making streaky lines. Give it a little bit of a kind of a gnarly kind of look. And then we'll just go for center highlight. Come back and give us a little bit more. I'll come over here and give that those are looking kind of cool. Okay, well, I've got my brush wet. I'm going to go ahead into the Reindeer Moss. Pardon me. And we'll bring up the highlights in a couple of spots. And then we can take our round brush and we can do the same thing on our stem. So the stem is going to be brightest in the forefront, and where things cross over on the top. So down here on the bottom it wouldn't be. And so we'll make sure, whoops, nice skinny line, tell a story, and we won't do any down there. Okay, now we'll shade with, let's see, it's avocado. Okay, and so we're going to pick a side, and we're just going to kind of basically glaze the whole side of that leaf. And in this case, I'm going to glaze down here. Now this time you're going to have to keep it off of your background. Remember the eraser trick? I should have Q-tips, but I am out here at this studio. They're downtown. Q-tips would be perfect here. Okay, and I'll give it just a little bit up here on the side. It gives us just a little bit of that kind of leaf color. This will get shaded down next to this. And we'll definitely shade down here on this dude. Except for, make it over there. And bring it out. Shade on the stem. next to the stem. I'll take some plantation pine and deepen some of our leafiness. And you can shade with this color to show the top and the bottom. Walk it out. It's almost just like a tap, tap, tap walking. So just tap it out. And then that one's definitely on top there. Give this guy a little bit more greeniness. And once again, if he gets too green, he's going to steal the show. So you can always back him down just a little bit. Go ahead over here. Our stem and give him a little bit of that shading down there. And bring that out where they curl around each other. Same thing here, tap, tap, tap. Keep it off your pumpkin. I think I add a little bit more water to my brush and almost just glaze this far side of that leaf. That way it's not covering anything up, it's just adding just a tint. Same thing here. Glaze. Okay. Now what we have is I have the glaze on the leaves, and my leaves are looking awfully green, and my stem is not, so I'll go in and glaze that as well. Alright, I'm going to make some of these veins come off of here. I've soaked my Raphael brush for a few minutes, and then I loaded it with thinned Reindeer Moss. Just going to give a little bit of a vein a moment. And then we'll go in and beef up some of the highlights. I think these leaves are like the jewelry of this piece. So we'll let that sparkle. You want it to end more faint at the tips. You want it to be softer down there at the tips, and make sure that you're releasing pressure. out behind. And this guy we're going to switch up to the celery green because we don't want him as bright. Okay, but he's still there. All right, and we'll go in with less water and just kind of splay our brush out and get these highlights up where they belong. Okay, that's better. All right, we're going to build some corn. Okay, what we're going to do is just use the width of our Pro Round number 2, and we're just going to give ourselves some kernels in a random pattern. Not going to worry too much about it, and we'll shade this down so that it's not so yellow. Okay, and then we'll go into, let's go into just a little bit of our, let's see, let's go into, what is this color, russet, and wash it down a little bit. Maybe strong it up a little bit. It's not showing so much. Okay, so that's giving us our little corn look. Then we'll go into our persimmon. No, this is not persimmon, this is oxblood. And we'll get a couple of red ones in there. Don't forget to leave some yellow. Okay, and then we're going to go to our curved flat, and we'll go into yowzers. What color? I'm going to try russet. I think it's going to be too dark. Maybe not. And then we've got to go ahead and line in between. We'll go with our russet and give ourselves the lines. Okay, I mind that. Okay, the other thing I think we're going to need to do is we've got our ears, our husks looking very, very, very dry, which is right for an Indian corn and that kind of stuff. But we have an isolated color situation. We have green up here, we have orange right here, and then we have these brown husks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce just a little bit of green here and there. Okay. And that will just bring our colors around. Because the husks used to be green. Okay, not too much. Kind of just glazing, really. Yeah, I think glazing is better than floating. And then I think what we can do is we can take a little bit of our corn color, which is the yellow ochre. And I think we can go ahead and kiss a little bit stronger up here on our pumpkin. Okay, and then I think what we can do is go into our yellow ochre. Mine needs burping here. It's all dried up. And let's see, I think we can kiss here and there with the yellow ochre up above here. I think we'll have to dry rub that. Go ahead and give it a little bit come down into the stem. And then I think we can give a little bit of yellow onto some of this stuff. So we're carrying these colors through, and that's going to make everybody feel a little bit more like family. Okay, now we'll take a little bit of our oxblood color and a crescent brush, and then we're going to bring a little bit of that color into our leaves. Our stems, and then we can bring a little bit of that down here as well. Make everybody one big happy family here. All right, I want to get a little bit of a shine going on our pumpkin. That's going to be with desert sand. And our desert sand is not being very bright. A little bit of highlight. Let's go back to the yellow ochre. Our corn. Okay. I think we're going to have to get a lighter color. Okay, I've got bleached sand. Those little bits there. Don't know if I need a little bit of bleached sand down here. A little bit up here. All right, I want to take a little bit of our rustic color, and I want to shade the pumpkin just a little bit browner. That's what mops are for, right? that is. I'll just fill that in just a little bit more. Okay, I'll give it a skinny ha-cha-cha down here. Okay, that sinks that down just a little bit better. And then we can almost give our corn husks just a little bit of bottom shading. Okay. And we could almost get this little leafy thing, just a little bit of that too. All right, we're going to take our, let's see, let's take the middle green. So that is, I'm losing my colors, avocado. I'm going to use an ink sweeper. And I'm going to put avocado on the tape. I'm going to give it 2 coats and take that tape right off. Okay, before you take your tape off, unlike myself, go ahead and hit it with just a little bit, you can use your ink sweeper, of the light avocado. Just a little bit too dark. That just brightens it up just a little bit. All right, we're going to put in some wheat. I'm going to use our cocoa color. I don't think I have hardly any left here. All right, so bring out some wheat. Okay, and we'll take I'm just going to go ahead and give a bunch of wheat heads right here. And then what we'll do is we use the hairifying end of our brush to give them some of these little hairs. And I think we can go ahead and plan on highlighting those just a little bit as well. Highlight will be the yellow ochre. The cocoa tends to be a settling color, so just give this just a little bit of a pop. Okay, so throw your brush. Okay, whenever you start going vice grip, that's usually what happens. Your brush ends up going whoosh across the room. Okay. And we probably need a couple coming out here. Make that one out like that. That wheat is not cocoa, it is honey brown. So we bring out those little hairs, and I think I'm going to mix some of this yellow in with the honey brown, which probably does make cocoa. It's just not turning out hairy enough looking for me. Gotta keep your paint thin. And you need a really fine liner to do this really well. What I like about the Raphael, did you notice that my little wheats had kind of a neat little shape to them? That's intrinsic with the brush. And so you get the really fine lines, plus you get a neat little shape for doing little plop leaves and things like that. Okay, whoops. I can beef up that yellow color. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to do a little bit of spattering. So we're going to start with the honey brown and yellow ochre mix. We use a heavy-handled brush and tap off some of them. I'm going to anchor my brush and then give a few spatters. I think what we'll do is give the greens just a little bit of attention as well. I think we'll go into our darker green, which is avocado. Really spattering off over there. And then we'll go into our lighter green. Mixed. Really tap that off. Whoops. And that will just give us a little bit of magic. We'll go into our yellow. And I think we need to go into lamp black. And get these edges.